Good Self, Bad Self, Understanding the Battle Within Your Mind. Read and published by Mr. Books. Within the intricate corridors of our minds, a constant dialogue echoes, a conversation between the good self and the bad self, each vying for influence over our thoughts, choices, and actions. This battle is not the clash of good versus evil in the traditional sense, but rather a nuanced interplay of emotions, beliefs, and habitual patterns that shape the fabric of our lives. At times, we feel pulled by fear, guilt, or shame, reacting to situations with avoidance or self-criticism. On other occasions, a sense of inner peace, confidence, and kindness surfaces, guiding us towards self-compassion and constructive action. These forces, our good and bad selves, form the basis of our internal world, often dictating what we feel, how we interpret events, and the paths we choose to take. Many of us go through life struggling to align our behaviors with our higher ideals, wishing we could mute the voice of self-doubt or navigate emotional triggers with elegance. We yearn for clarity, seeking a way to calm the storms within. Yet the process is rarely straightforward. The journey to understanding and balancing these inner voices is one of depth and transformation, a gradual shedding of old patterns, an opening to new possibilities. This book, Good Self, Bad Self, Understanding the Battle Within Your Mind, is your companion on that journey. It does not offer quick fixes or prescribed solutions. Instead, it provides a warm invitation to explore your inner landscape, to observe without judgment, and to reshape your mindset gently. You'll encounter the allies of your bad self, fear, guilt, and shame, and learn how to recognize their impact. You'll discover practical tools to manage emotional triggers, master the art of cognitive reframing, and align your self-talk with your deepest values. Through the cultivation of mindfulness, habit formation, and forgiveness, you will uncover new strengths, dissolve internal resistance, and heal from within. Each chapter builds upon the last, forming a tapestry of insight and compassion. Whether you are seeking relief from emotional turmoil or aspiring to deepen your self-awareness, this book offers guidance and hope. Let's begin this journey together with warmth, understanding, and a wholehearted embrace of all that resides within. You are not alone in the battle within your mind. Your good self is always present, ready to guide you toward a life of balance and fulfillment. Let's begin this journey together towards self-understanding, kindness, and renewed purpose. Chapter 1. The Inner Conflict, Good versus Bad Self. Every morning as you begin your day, an invisible conversation starts within your mind. Perhaps you feel inspired by the possibility of progress and new achievements, but then, almost instantly, a counterforce emerges, listing reasons why you're not ready, not good enough, or destined to fail. This is the classic inner conflict, the struggle between your good self and your bad self. But what does it mean to have a good self and a bad self? Are these two distinct entities fighting for dominance, or are they simply two aspects of a larger, complex whole? The good self is often characterized by positivity, aspiration, motivation, and kindness. It's the part of you that believes in your capacity for growth, stands up for your values, and strives to realize your dreams. It nurtures your relationships, seeks joy, and urges you to overcome obstacles. It dreams of a fulfilling life, a life lived fully and authentically. In contrast, the bad self manifests as doubt, insecurity, self-sabotage, and fear. It's the voice that tells you not to bother trying because you might fail. It remembers every mistake and magnifies each flaw. When you feel the urge to reach higher, the bad self pulls you down, using the weight of past disappointments and anticipated rejection. It's as if your mind is split, with both parts vying for control. This dynamic is beautifully human. It's not unique to any one individual. Throughout history, philosophers, psychotherapists, and spiritual teachers have identified this internal duality. Plato described the soul as having opposing horses, one noble, one unruly, while Freud famously divided the psyche into the id, ego, and superego, each with its own desires and preferences. Scientific research, too, verifies the existence of cognitive dissonance, a phenomenon where conflicting beliefs coexist, causing discomfort that propels us to resolve them. The inner conflict is, in many ways, a natural result of a mind evolved to balance risk and reward, attachment and autonomy, safety and adventure. Many people feel shame about their negative thoughts, believing them to be a sign of weakness or moral failing. Yet these voices serve an evolutionary purpose. The bad self often arises from protective instincts designed to keep us safe from harm, ridicule, or disappointment. Its warnings are perhaps exaggerated, but they stem from a place of caution. The problem occurs when the bad self becomes overzealous, when its voice is so loud, so persistent, that we begin to mistake its warnings for reality. The good self is drowned out, and our capacity for joy and achievement shrinks. Recognizing this inner battle is the first step to understanding ourselves more fully. By becoming aware of these voices, we gain the power to pause and choose which narratives to follow. The goal is not to eradicate the bad self entirely, but to help it relinquish its dominance and allow the good self to become our guide. Throughout this chapter, we invite reflection. When do you most notice your inner conflict? Is it in moments of change, stress, or vulnerability? What words do your good self and your bad self use? Are they gentle or harsh, encouraging or discouraging? Imagine your mind as a council. Both selves have seats at the table. With awareness and compassion, you can listen to each, understand their motives, and decide who should hold the gavel. In the following chapters, we'll dig into the origins and roles of these conflicting selves. For now, simply note, you are not alone in your struggle. The presence of both good and bad selves is not a flaw, but an experience shared by all. With understanding, patience, and practice, the battle within can become a source of growth, leading you closer to the life you truly desire. Chapter 2: Origins of the Dual Mind. How we develop contradictory thoughts. To understand the ongoing struggle between your good self and bad self, we must trace its roots. The inner conflict does not simply appear out of nowhere. It grows within us, shaped by childhood experiences, societal influences, and even the way our brains are wired. Our earliest years are crucial in the development of our dual mind. As infants and toddlers, we absorb beliefs and emotional patterns from our caregivers. If we are nurtured with love, security, and affirmation, the seeds of the good self are sown, beliefs that we are worthy, capable, and safe. But even in the most loving homes, moments of frustration, neglect, or misunderstanding can cultivate the bad self. Harsh words, unmet needs, or disappointment create a narrative of inadequacy. School and social environments further reinforce these patterns. Teachers, friends, and authority figures become mirrors for our internal dialogue. Praise and encouragement strengthen the good self. Criticism and exclusion breed the bad self. A single comment, "You're not good enough," "You'll never succeed," can echo for years, coloring our choices and self-perceptions. As we grow, our minds become battlegrounds for contradictory thoughts. This is, in part, a function of brain development. Neural pathways that are repeated and reinforced become dominant, while those neglected fade. If you were often told you were clever and creative, you likely carry those beliefs as strengths. If you were criticized or discouraged, you may find those narratives persist, especially during stress. Societal norms also play a powerful role. From advertisements to cultural stories, we receive mixed messages about who we should be. One moment, we are urged to strive and achieve. The next, we are warned against arrogance or selfishness. The good self seeks connection and validation. The bad self fears rejection and shame. Contradictory thoughts are a natural byproduct of being a complex, adaptive human. Instead of viewing them as fragmented or confused, we can see them as evidence of our ability to learn and adapt. The mind's flexibility ensures we can survive diverse environments and make wise decisions. A key source of our dual mind comes from defensive mechanisms. When we are hurt, emotionally, psychologically, or physically, we develop protective beliefs. "I'm not good enough" may actually be a strategy to avoid risking failure again. The bad self grows stronger as we encounter setbacks and disappointments, insisting that caution is better than hope. Meanwhile, the good self never disappears. Even after many failures or upsets, it quietly encourages us to try once more, to believe in our capacity for change and renewal. The good self is resilient, patiently waiting for moments when its voice can be heard. Understanding the origins of the dual mind helps us become more compassionate toward ourselves. It reveals that much of our inner conflict comes not from inherent brokenness, but from the stories we have learned. When we grasp this truth, we can begin to rewrite those stories, strengthening the good self and gently healing the bad self. Reflect on your own origins. What messages did you receive growing up? When did you first notice your mind working against itself? Consider journaling about these moments. Remember, every person carries both good and bad selves. By tracing their roots with kindness, we find the beginning steps to greater harmony within. Chapter 3. The role of the subconscious in behavior. When we think about why we act the way we do, why we sometimes succeed triumphantly or trip ourselves up, it's tempting to look only at our conscious thought. Yet beneath the surface lies the subconscious mind, a powerful driver of beliefs, habits, and automatic responses. Understanding its role in the battle between the good self and the bad self illuminates the hidden reasons behind our behaviors. The subconscious mind is like the operating system running quietly in the background, processing a lifetime of experiences, emotions, and routines. Unlike the conscious mind, which analyzes and decides, the subconscious feels and responds, often before rational thought can intervene. Picture a garden. The subconscious mind is its soil. Whatever is planted within it, positive affirmations, negative beliefs, fears, hopes, will eventually sprout. If the soil is rich with nurturing experiences, your good self has a strong foundation. But if the soil is shadowed by trauma, criticism, or repeated disappointments, the bad self takes root. Most of our behavior stems from the subconscious. Studies suggest as much as 95% of what we do each day is shaped not by deliberate decision, but by habit and automatic reaction. This is why making lasting change is so difficult. Our roots run deep. The subconscious feeds both the good self and the bad self. It stores our earliest memories, ingrains our learned responses, and acts on patterns, whether they serve us or not. The bad self-sabotage is often a subconscious attempt to keep us safe, protecting us from rejection, embarrassment, or pain. The good self, meanwhile, is driven by subconscious threads of hope, ambition, or love imparted early in life. Dreams offer another window into the subconscious mind. In dreams, both selves mingle freely, expressing fears we suppress during the day and desires we dare to hope for. Recurring dreams or nightmares often reveal entrenched battles within ourselves. So how can we influence our subconscious? The first step is awareness. By bringing automatic thoughts and patterns into the light, we can begin to discern which ones belong to the good self and which to the bad. Practices such as mindfulness, meditation, and journaling are powerful tools for surfacing subconscious material. Next comes intentional reprogramming. Positive affirmations, visualization exercises, and even cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can help replace unwanted subconscious beliefs with healthier ones. For example, practicing self-compassion can reduce the impact of the bad self's critical voice over time. Importantly, kindness is key. The subconscious does not respond well to force or criticism. The more gently we approach our inner world, the more receptive our mind becomes to transformation. Consider your own subconscious routines. Do you find yourself reacting in certain ways before you've had a chance to think? Or they're patterns you repeat, sometimes against your better judgment. These patterns are not immutable. They're malleable, shaped by new experience, repeated practice, and patient self-understanding. In the end, working with the subconscious is an act of self-care. By tapping into this part of ourselves, we can heal old wounds, empower the good self, and gently transform the bad self from saboteur to ally. With time and effort, our behaviors begin to reflect our deepest hopes and aspirations. Chapter 4. Identifying self-sabotage patterns. Self-sabotage is the insidious act of undermining your own goals, relationships, or happiness. It rarely presents itself bluntly. Instead, it appears in subtle, recurring patterns: procrastination, overthinking, avoidance, or even self-destructive habits. Understanding and identifying these patterns is essential in recognizing when the bad self is dominating the mind. Self-sabotage is often not a conscious choice. It arises when the bad self feels threatened by change or discomfort. Perhaps you've worked hard toward a goal only to avoid that final step or decision. Maybe you start a new relationship with hope, only to withdraw the moment intimacy grows. These are classic examples of the bad self stepping in. One common form of self-sabotage is procrastination. You set your sights on an important task, feel motivated, and yet continuously delay action. The good self wants progress, while the bad self whispers doubts. What if you can't do it? What if you fail or look foolish? The mind chooses the short-term comfort of avoidance, sacrificing long-term satisfaction. Another form is perfectionism. The bad self sets impossibly high standards, convincing you that anything less than perfect is failure. You expend energy trying to meet these standards, only to give up altogether or never begin. Perfectionism is often a shadow of fear of criticism, judgment, or disappointment. Negative self-talk is another hallmark. When you catch yourself repeating, "I'm not good enough," "I always mess up," or "I'll never change," the bad self is asserting its influence. These messages, often rooted in childhood or traumatic experiences, perpetuate cycles of anxiety and inactivity. Self-sabotage can also surface in relationships. You may attract healthy partners, but then push them away with suspicion or withdrawal. The bad self, conditioned by past rejection, protects you from future hurt, ironically by undermining happiness in the present. Identifying these patterns begins with honest reflection. It requires gentle curiosity, not harsh judgment. When you notice yourself resisting growth, pausing to ask, "What am I afraid of?" often reveals the deeper narrative. Are these actions protecting you or keeping you stuck? Tracking self-sabotage can be helped by journaling. Document moments you felt blocked or discouraged, noting what triggered the emotions and what narrative your mind created. Over time, patterns emerge. Certain scenarios, relationships, or opportunities consistently spark sabotage. A helpful practice is to pause in moments of hesitation and consciously invite the good self into the conversation. Instead of berating yourself for procrastination, ask, "What would my good self say or do in this situation?" This reframes your thinking, making it possible to break the cycle. Self-sabotage, like all aspects of the bad self, is an attempt at protection. Recognizing this intent helps you respond with kindness. Thank the bad self for trying to keep you safe, then gently guide it toward more empowering choices. Celebrating small victories is crucial. Every time you notice and interrupt a self-sabotaging pattern, even in a tiny way, you strengthen the good self's influence. Over time, these choices add up, leading to profound shifts in behavior and mindset. The journey of self-awareness is ongoing. Your bad self will not disappear overnight, but understanding its patterns and intentions transforms it into a force you can manage and even learn from. You become the author of your destiny, rewriting old scripts and making room for the good self to flourish. Chapter 5. The Voice of the Inner Critic. Nestled deep within each of us is the inner critic, a persistent, often harsh voice that evaluates our actions, aspirations, and self-worth. It's a primary tool of the bad self, echoing messages of doubt, inadequacy, and sometimes shame. Understanding the inner critic is a crucial step in reclaiming the power of your good self. The inner critic develops early, shaped by external feedback and internalized beliefs. It mimics parents, teachers, peers, and society, replaying critical remarks and perceived failures. Over time, it transforms from an external voice to an internal reality, governing how we view ourselves and guiding behavior, often more than we realize. The critic's messages are rarely factual. They're colored by emotion and past experience. You'll never be good enough. Why do you always mess things up? Everyone is judging you. These thoughts are not objective truths, but interpretations, born out of an urge to protect you from repeating old pain. Unfortunately, rather than helping, they often paralyze and diminish you. This inner critic has many forms. Sometimes it acts as a perfectionist, driving you to impossible standards. Other times, it's a worrywart warning you away from new experiences. It can even masquerade as motivation, berating you for not doing more, faster, or better, only to erode your confidence. Recognizing the voice of the inner critic requires mindful attention. The critic may speak suddenly, interrupting your thoughts, or linger quietly in the background. Notice the language it uses. Does it sound like someone from your past? Is it full of shoulds, oughts, and can'ts? Begin dialoguing with the critic. Ask, whose voice is this really? Often, you'll discover it's tied to an influential figure or a painful experience. This awareness helps you distinguish your true self from borrowed beliefs. Creating distance from the inner critic is possible through compassionate self-talk. Imagine how you'd speak to a dear friend facing the same doubts. Would you judge them harshly or offer encouragement and understanding? Practice speaking to yourself with the same warmth. The good self is always ready with empathy, support, and gentle guidance. Journaling can be useful here. Write down the criticisms you hear and then respond to each as your good self might. Over time, you'll see the contrast in tone, judgment versus kindness. This process gradually weakens the grip of the critic. Accepting the criticism as part of you rather than an enemy also helps. Its intentions, however misguided, are to keep you safe from embarrassment, failure, or pain. Thank the critic for its vigilance, then invite it to step back, making room for positive self-belief. Professional support through therapy or coaching can further help transform the inner critic. Techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or mindfulness cultivate resilience and self-compassion, vital tools for quieting negative voices. Most importantly, remember that everyone has an inner critic. Its presence is not a sign of weakness, but of being human. The difference lies in how we respond, with fear and obedience, or with patience and inner kindness. Reclaim the power of your good self by choosing your own narrative. Build new habits of encouragement, patience, and affirmation. The inner critic may always whisper, but over time, its voice will fade, replaced by the strength and wisdom of your true, good self. Chapter 6. Recognizing the good self, your true potential. Imagine living every day guided by your best intentions, strengths, and dreams. This is the essence of the good self, the authentic part of you that knows your potential and desires growth, connection, and joy. Yet for many, the good self can feel elusive, overshadowed by doubt and self-criticism. Recognizing the good self starts with awareness. The good self is characterized by hope, resilience, kindness, and an unwavering sense of possibility. It seeks self-improvement, treasures relationships, and remains curious in the face of life's mysteries. When you achieve a personal goal, offer compassion to others, or simply feel gratitude, that's your good self at work. The good self is subtle. Its encouragement may be softer than the bad self's warnings, but it's persistent, gently nudging you forward even when you stumble. Pay attention to these moments, the impulse to help a friend, the motivation to learn, the awe-inspiring feeling during creativity or play. Practices that strengthen the good self include self-reflection and mindfulness. Take time each day to acknowledge your achievements, no matter how small. Celebrate acts of courage, compassion, and curiosity. Journal about times you felt proud, grateful, or motivated. These entries become proof of your good self's presence. Surround yourself with positive influences. The good self is nurtured in environments of hope and trust. Seek friends, mentors, and activities that encourage growth and authenticity. Limit exposure to toxic negativity, both externally and internally. Visualize the person you aspire to be, not only in achievement, but in character. Describe your good self's qualities: patience, humor, empathy, and integrity. How would this self approach challenges, relationships, and setbacks? Visualization sets a powerful intention, activating neural pathways aligned with your best potential. In moments of stress or conflict, pause and ask, "What would my good self do?" This simple question reroutes habitual reactions, opening new possibilities. Perhaps a situation calls for empathy rather than judgment, action rather than avoidance, or forgiveness rather than resentment. The good self also thrives when we pursue meaningful goals. Set intentions that align with your values and vision. Take steps toward these goals, however small. Progress builds momentum, deepening trust in your good self's capacity. Personal growth is not about perfection, but persistence. We all fail and falter. The good self responds with resilience, viewing mistakes as lessons instead of limitations. For those struggling to recognize their good self, professional support can help. Therapists, coaches, and support groups provide mirrors of your strengths and potential. Sometimes another's belief in you awakens belief within yourself. Ultimately, the journey toward recognizing your good self is an act of radical kindness. It's about seeing your unique gifts, talents, and wisdom, and giving yourself permission to thrive. The more you nurture this self, the quieter the bad self becomes. Embrace your good self. Let its voice guide you toward learning, healing, and purpose. This is your path to a life rich in meaning, joy, and authentic connection. Chapter 7. Allies of the Bad Self: Fear, Guilt, and Shame. In the warm embrace of self-discovery, it is essential first to understand the allies that often empower our bad selves: fear, guilt, and shame. These emotions, while natural and sometimes necessary, can also become potent forces that subtly shape the contours of our lives. They appear, sometimes unexpectedly, pulling us into cycles of negative thinking, self-doubt, and avoidance. Fear is often our earliest companion in adversity. It emerges as a protector, warning us of potential harm or loss. Yet when fear overextends its welcome, it can morph into a chronic inhibitor. We hesitate to pursue opportunities, shy away from risks, and avoid intimate connections. Not because danger is imminent, but because fear has convinced us that it might be. The bad self feeds on this narrative, amplifying doubts and stifling growth. Guilt, on the other hand, grows from the soil of our values. When we falter or make mistakes, guilt nudges us to mend our ways. In its healthy form, it is a catalyst for learning and accountability. But guilt, when unchecked or fueled by perfectionism, can become a heavy burden shadowing our every step. Instead of prompting responsible action, it immobilizes us, making us feel perpetually unworthy or flawed. The bad self knows how to weaponize guilt, replaying personal failures and magnifying regrets. Shame, the deepest of the three, attacks our sense of identity. While guilt says, "You did something wrong," shame whispers, "There is something wrong with you." Its voice is piercing, often born from early experiences and reinforced by societal pressures. Shame's grip can be debilitating, leading to isolation and a persistent sense of inadequacy. Our bad self draws strength from shame, turning it into a wall that keeps us from experiencing belonging or self-love. These three emotions are not mere obstacles. They are clues about our mental landscape. Recognizing their presence is the first step toward understanding the inner battle. When fear, guilt, or shame arises, we need not judge ourselves. Instead, we can pause and listen. What are these feelings trying to tell us? Are they signaling a need for safety, a desire to reconnect with our values, or highlighting unresolved wounds? Importantly, the good self is not absent during these moments. It is patiently waiting to help us reinterpret these experiences. With awareness, we can learn to distinguish between helpful and harmful expressions of fear, guilt, and shame. We can nurture the gentle voice within, choosing compassion over criticism, curiosity over condemnation. To begin this journey, reflect on your own life. Recall moments when fear held you back, when guilt burdened your heart, or when shame silenced your voice. Notice the thoughts and physical sensations that accompanied these feelings. As you do, remember, these emotions are understandable, even universal. They are not proof of your inadequacy, but invitations to grow. In the chapters ahead, we will explore these emotions in greater depth, identify their triggers, and learn practical strategies to navigate their influence. For now, simply acknowledge the allies of your bad self, not as enemies to be fought, but as messengers to be understood. In this understanding lies the path toward healing, balance, and a stronger relationship with your good self. Chapter 8. Emotional Triggers. What fuels the inner battle? Emotional triggers are like flares sent up from the depths of our subconscious, illuminating unresolved challenges and revealing the battleground where our good and bad selves grapple for control. These triggers manifest suddenly, sometimes with overwhelming intensity, and often catch us off guard. By learning to recognize and understand them, we take a decisive step toward mastery of our inner dialogue. A trigger is any event, word, gesture, or circumstance that evokes a strong emotional reaction, usually disproportionate to the situation at hand. Triggers are deeply personal, shaped by our unique histories, vulnerabilities, and unhealed wounds. A casual remark might wound one person deeply while barely registering with another. The good self recognizes that these reactions are not arbitrary, but instead point to meaningful themes in our lives. Common emotional triggers include criticism, rejection, perceived failure, or feeling excluded. Physical sensations, tightness in the chest, a racing heart, or an urge to withdraw, often accompany these triggers. The bad self uses triggers as leverage, steering us toward old patterns of defensiveness, avoidance, or hostility. In these moments, we are less present and more reactive, caught in the tide of emotion. Unpacking your triggers begins with gentle self-observation. When you notice a surge of emotion, pause and ask yourself, what just happened? What story is my mind telling me right now? Did this remind me of something painful from my past? Naming your triggers is a powerful way to reclaim agency. Instead of being swept away, you can stand firm, supported by the steady voice of your good self. Let's consider an example. You receive critical feedback at work. Instantly, you feel hurt and defensive. The bad self is loud, urging you to dismiss the feedback or to retaliate. But by pausing, you might realize that the trigger isn't just the feedback itself. It's an old belief that you must be perfect to deserve respect. This awareness opens the door to compassion. You can acknowledge the pain, look beyond it, and respond with maturity. Our triggers often originate from early experiences where we learned, consciously or unconsciously, how to protect ourselves from harm. They are defense mechanisms crafted in childhood, now recycled in adult life. When unexamined, these triggers perpetuate cycles of self-sabotage or strained relationships. When understood, they become opportunities for growth. Transforming your response to triggers involves several practices. First, cultivate curiosity. Instead of condemning yourself for being triggered, approach the experience with interest. Ask, what am I feeling? What does this feeling want to teach me? Second, begin the process of self-soothing. Use grounding techniques, a few deep breaths, gentle touch, positive self-affirmations to comfort yourself. Third, practice mindful awareness, observing your internal reactions without judgment. The good self thrives on reflection and honesty. It encourages you to engage with your emotions, to seek meaning, and to foster resilience. The bad self, while loud, can be quieted with patience and skill. Remember, emotional triggers are signposts on the journey to healing. They are not signs of weakness, but invitations to choose reflection over reaction. As you move forward, keep a journal of your emotional triggers. Record the context, your feelings, and your initial reactions. Over time, you will notice patterns, and with those patterns, you gain the power to transform your responses. Each time you choose awareness, you strengthen your good self, expanding your capacity for understanding and compassion. In embracing your triggers with warmth, humility, and openness, you rewrite the script of your inner dialogue. The battle within your mind softens, replaced by a gentle dance between vulnerability and strength. Chapter 9. Mindfulness and Awareness. Observing without judgment. The development of mindfulness and awareness marks a crucial turning point in the inner dialogue between good and bad selves. At its core, mindfulness involves cultivating a quality of attention that is receptive, non-judgmental, and grounded in the present moment. This skill is both ancient and transformative, offering a gentle refuge from the storm of thought and emotion. When the mind is turbulent, filled with fears, regrets, and anxieties, the bad self tends to dominate. Our focus narrows. We lose perspective. Yet through mindfulness, we step back. We become the observer, watching our thoughts and feelings with kindness rather than criticism. In this spaciousness, the noise of the bad self gradually recedes and the wisdom of our good self emerges. What does it mean to observe without judgment? Imagine sitting quietly, noticing sensations in your body as you breathe. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Instead of reacting or getting caught up in their content, you simply notice, there's anxiety, or I'm feeling sad. There is no need to push the feeling away or grasp onto it. This simple act of observation fosters acceptance and reduces the grip of difficult emotions. Mindfulness is not the absence of emotion or thought. It is the presence of awareness. The good self flourishes in this environment. It whispers, it's okay to be exactly where you are right now. With continued practice, mindfulness becomes a sanctuary, a place within yourself where you can rest, reflect, and recharge. To cultivate mindfulness, set aside a few minutes each day. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and bring attention to your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the warmth of the air as you inhale and exhale. When your mind wanders, as minds always do, gently return your focus to the breath. There's nothing to achieve, nothing to fix, just be present. Another practice involves mindful movement. Whether walking, stretching, or simply swaying, notice how your body feels. Since your connection to the earth, let each motion anchor you in the present moment. These rituals, however small, reinforce your good self's message. You are safe. You are enough. Over time, mindfulness enables you to recognize the patterns of your bad self. You see how worry or anger surfaces, how shame or self-doubt tries to take control. With awareness, you can respond rather than react. You may choose a kind word, a gentle pause, or a different perspective. Mindfulness is not a magic cure, but a reliable companion, helping you navigate life's ups and downs with grace. Importantly, mindfulness teaches you to forgive yourself for being imperfect. The practice is not about suppressing the bad self or elevating the good self above it. It is about creating space for both. From this place, true balance and healing can occur. Throughout your day, remind yourself to pause. Before an important call, in the midst of disagreement or when overwhelmed, take a mindful breath. Remember, you have the power to observe your inner world without judgment, embracing all parts of yourself with warmth and clarity. Mindfulness is the invitation to live not just in your thoughts, but in your whole being. It is the foundation upon which transformation is built, and it helps your good self lead the way with compassion. Through this practice, your inner dialogue evolves from battle to harmony. Chapter 10. Cognitive reframing, transforming negative thoughts. Amidst the ebb and flow of internal dialogue, our thoughts wield remarkable influence. At times, negative thoughts spring from the depths of the bad self, casting long shadows over our mood and self-esteem. They tell stories of limitation, failure, and rejection. Cognitive reframing is an empowering process, one in which you learn to recognize, challenge, and transform these thoughts, so your good self can flourish. Every day, we interpret experiences in unique ways. When something unexpected happens, a missed opportunity, a perceived slight, a mistake, our minds immediately judge. The bad self often leans into pessimistic interpretations. I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, nobody cares. Over time, these narratives become habitual, creating a lens through which we view ourselves and the world. The art of cognitive reframing is learning to spot these negative patterns and consciously shift your perspective. It does not mean ignoring pain or pretending things are perfect. Instead, it involves asking, is there another way to see this? By doing so, you give your good self permission to propose kinder alternatives. Let's explore a common scenario. Suppose you make an error at work. The initial thought is, I'm a failure. Pause for a moment. Where is the evidence for this conclusion? Is it possible that mistakes are a normal part of learning? Can you view this as an opportunity for growth rather than as a reflection of your worth? Reframing the situation might sound like, everyone makes mistakes. I can learn and improve. Reframing is most powerful when combined with compassion. The bad self thrives on harshness, but the good self offers understanding. Instead of saying, I always mess things up, consider, I had a setback. What can I do differently next time? Changing the language you use with yourself is a subtle but potent shift. It nurtures hope and resilience. Mental habits are stubborn. Sometimes the same negative thoughts return again and again. In these instances, journaling can be helpful. Write down your persistent negative beliefs. For each one, ask, what is the evidence? Is this thought absolutely true? How would someone who loves me view this situation? What is a more balanced, helpful perspective? With practice, reframing becomes second nature. You recognize the arrival of a negative thought, not as an enemy, but as a signal to pause and redirect. Remind yourself the good self is always present, ready to offer wisdom and support. One effective technique is the thought record. When you experience a difficult emotion, jot down the triggering situation, your automatic thought and your emotional response. Then brainstorm alternative thoughts, noting any shift in feelings. Over time, you'll notice which reframes work best for you. Cognitive reframing also helps reduce the power of rumination, the endless spinning of negative stories. The more you challenge the bad self's narrative, the weaker its hold becomes. You realize that you can choose your response, that your worth is not defined by setbacks or criticism. This process requires persistence, patience, and kindness. Some days, reframing happens with ease. Other days, it feels impossible. Honor the journey. Remember that even small shifts in perspective can have a profound impact on your happiness and well-being. Ultimately, cognitive reframing is a skill, one that expands your capacity for self-compassion and growth. It is the bridge from suffering to possibility, from harshness to gentleness. Practice it daily. Trust your good self to guide you, even when the way is unclear. Your thoughts are powerful, but you are more powerful still. Transform them gently and watch your inner landscape bloom. Chapter 11. The Power of Self-Talk. Aligning with your good self. Self-talk, the inner narrative you carry, quietly shapes your beliefs, emotions, and actions. It is the running commentary, accompanying every moment of your day, often so familiar that you barely notice its influence. The bad self tends to fill this space with negativity, doubt, and harsh judgment. But with practice, you can harness the power of self-talk to align with your good self and unlock a life of greater confidence, connectedness, and joy. Consider your inner voice. When you face a challenge, do you hear encouragement or criticism? After a mistake, do you offer understanding or berate yourself? This dialogue is not set in stone. It can be rewritten. The words you choose and the tone in which you speak to yourself matter more than you might imagine. Positive self-talk is not mere cheerleading or denial of reality. It is a compassionate acknowledgement of your strengths, your efforts, and your inherent worth. It says, I am capable, I am learning, it's okay to ask for help. When difficulties arise, the good self encourages you to respond with curiosity, kindness, and resilience. The bad self uses self-talk to reinforce old fears. I'll never be good enough. Why did I say that? I always mess up. This voice grows louder in times of stress or uncertainty. Left unchecked, it erodes self-esteem and limits potential. The key to shifting your self-talk is awareness. Begin to notice the tone and content of your internal dialogue. Is it supportive or critical? Compassionate or condemning? Practice reframing negative self-talk. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, pause and ask, is that true? What if I gave myself permission to try? Replace I'm so stupid with I made a mistake and that's okay. Gradually, you cultivate an inner environment where the good self is welcomed and nurtured. Affirmations are a powerful tool for positive self-talk. Choose phrases that resonate with you, such as, I am enough, I deserve kindness, I am strong and capable. Repeat these out loud in your mind or write them on sticky notes. Over time, these words become ingrained, transforming your self-perception. Kind self-talk extends to how you handle setbacks and achievements. Celebrate your efforts, not just your successes. If you falter, remind yourself that growth comes through challenges. The good self never demands perfection. It honors resilience and growth. Self-talk also influences how you interact with others. When your inner voice is compassionate, you are more likely to approach relationships with empathy and understanding. You become a source of warmth, inspiration, and support, not just for yourself, but for everyone you encounter. Developing supportive self-talk requires patience. Old habits may persist. Be gentle with yourself. If you slip into harshness, notice it, forgive yourself, and try again. The process is not linear. It is an ongoing dance between awareness and intention. Ultimately, the words you speak to yourself set the tone for your life. By aligning your self-talk with your good self, you foster a sense of peace, confidence, and purpose. This is not an act of ego. It is an act of compassion. Trust in your goodness. Nurture it with kind words and watch yourself blossom. Chapter 12. Habit formation. Training the mind for positive action habits are the invisible architecture of daily life. They determine how you begin your mornings, approach challenges, interact with others, and care for yourself. Some habits, driven by the bad self, perpetuate cycles of avoidance, criticism, and procrastination. Others, nourished by the good self, empower you to thrive. Learning to consciously form positive habits is a cornerstone of lasting transformation. A habit is not simply a repeated action. It is a behavior so ingrained that you can perform it almost without thinking. Neuroscience tells us that habits carve pathways in the brain. Each repetition strengthens the connection. When you harness this process intentionally, you create a supportive environment for your good self. Begin by identifying which habits serve you and which do not. Take a gentle inventory of your routines. Notice when you feel energized, hopeful, or content, what actions preceded these feelings. Similarly, observe when you feel drained, anxious, or defeated. Which habits contributed? To form positive habits, clarity and consistency are key. Choose one behavior you'd like to cultivate. Be specific. For example, I'll start each day with 5 minutes of mindfulness, or I'll write down 3 things I'm grateful for every night. Keep the goal small and manageable to increase the likelihood of success. Start with cues, small reminders that prompt the desired behavior. Place your journal by your bed. Set a timer for meditation and leave running shoes by the door. Each cue activates your intention, guiding you gently toward action. Repetition builds momentum. Celebrate each time you practice the new habit, even if only for a few days. The good self thrives on encouragement and gentle persistence. If you miss a day, avoid self-criticism. Instead, reflect on what made it difficult and reaffirm your commitment. Habits are not formed in isolation. The environment matters. Surround yourself with supportive people, resources, and inspirations. Share your goals with a friend, join a group, or seek out books, podcasts, or mentors. Each external support strengthens your internal resolve. Some habits take longer to establish, especially those that challenge old patterns. Be kind to yourself during setbacks. Remember, progress is not perfection. The bad self may try to sabotage your efforts, suggesting you'll never change. Respond with patience and positive self-talk. I'm learning, I'm trying, every step counts. Track your progress. Keep a simple log or calendar. Mark each day you follow through and watch as the habit quietly takes root. Over time, you'll notice subtle shifts, not just in your actions, but in your thoughts and feelings. The good self grows stronger, the bad self quieter. Sometimes, breaking an old habit is necessary. Approach this with curiosity. What need was the habit meeting for? Can you find a healthier substitute? For example, if you tend to criticize yourself, practice mindful acceptance instead. If you procrastinate, structure your day to include small, enjoyable tasks alongside obligations. Habits are not a badge of virtue. They are tools for living with greater ease and purpose. By training your mind through consistent, compassionate practice, you create space for healing, growth, and joy. Celebrate your efforts. Each time you make a positive choice, honor it. You are building a foundation for your good self to flourish. The process may be slow, but the results are profound. Transform your habits and you transform your life, one gentle step at a time. Chapter 13. Overcoming Inner Resistance. We often talk about motivation as if it's a simple on-off switch. Either you have it or you don't. But as anyone who has tried to break a habit, start a new routine, or pursue a challenging goal knows, the process is rife with resistance. You set out with good intentions, feeling determined to change, only to find yourself mysteriously blocked, procrastinating, or reverting to old patterns. This resistance can feel like an invisible force, pushing back against every attempt to move forward. What is this force, and why does it have so much power over us? To understand resistance, we need to explore its psychological roots. Inner resistance is often a signal that we are moving into unfamiliar territory, venturing beyond the comfort zone of our mind's routines and beliefs. The bad self, as we discuss in this book, is not literally evil. Rather, it represents the parts of us that cling to old ways out of fear, insecurity, or protectiveness. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a forest. The path ahead is unexplored, and while your good self is eager to embark on the adventure, your bad self worries about what dangers might be lurking in the shadows. This part of you remembers past failures, embarrassments, and hurts. Its resistance is its way of saying, "I'm scared, I want to stay safe." The first step in overcoming resistance is to acknowledge it without judgment. Too often, we berate ourselves for not being strong enough, focused enough, or disciplined enough. Instead, what if you viewed your resistance as a form of self-protection? By embracing a compassionate mindset, you can begin to understand the underlying fears that drive your hesitancy. Let's try an exercise. Think of something important that you've been resisting. Close your eyes and imagine your bad self as a well-intentioned guardian, standing protectively in front of that goal. What does this part of you fear will happen if you move forward? Write these fears down. Maybe you're afraid of failing, disappointing others, or discovering you're not enough. Naming these fears gives you power over them. Next, open a gentle dialogue with your bad self. Instead of trying to overpower it, ask what it needs to feel safe. Would smaller steps help? More encouragement? Reassurance? As you develop trust between your good and bad selves, resistance begins to soften. Resistance isn't a flaw, it's a signal. Your mind is alerting you that something new is at stake. Use this awareness to strengthen your resolve, arm yourself with self-compassion, and move forward, one brave, gentle step at a time. Overcoming inner resistance doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of listening, negotiating, and slowly building trust within yourself. When you honor your fears and persist with kindness, you'll find that the path forward becomes clearer and your confidence deepens. The first victory in the battle within is learning to work with resistance instead of against it. Chapter 14. The role of forgiveness in healing internal conflict. Forgiveness is often spoken of in relation to others, letting go of grudges, moving on from betrayal, or mending broken relationships. Yet one of the deepest wounds we carry is the self-inflicted pain of internal conflict. It's the lingering regret for choices we've made, the shame for the ways we've hurt ourselves or others, and the persistent frustration with parts of ourselves we wish were different. The battle within your mind is intensified by unforgiveness. When you're stuck in cycles of self-blame, every attempt to change or grow is sabotaged by hidden anger and resentment. The bad self thrives on these wounds, using them as fuel for further self-condemnation. The good self, meanwhile, yearns for freedom and self-acceptance, but can't move forward while carrying a heavy burden of guilt. Healing internal conflict starts with redefining forgiveness. It's not about excusing harmful behaviors or pretending that pain didn't occur. True forgiveness means acknowledging the impact of those behaviors, then making a conscious decision to release yourself from the prison of self-judgment. It's an act of radical self-love that says, I am worthy of growth, even if I am imperfect. Consider an exercise. Recall a memory where you acted in a way you now regret. Close your eyes and let yourself sit with the discomfort, allowing the pain to surface without resistance. Notice the emotions that arise: anger, guilt, shame. Then place your hand over your heart and whisper, I forgive you. You were doing the best you could with the wisdom you had. Repeat this as many times as needed. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a process that unfolds layer by layer, often requiring repeated visits to old wounds. Each act of forgiveness is like a gentle rain, softening hardened soil so that new growth can emerge. When you forgive yourself, you create space for your good self to flourish. This process is challenging. The bad self may try to argue that forgiveness is undeserved, that you need to keep punishing yourself to ensure you don't repeat mistakes. But self-hatred never leads to genuine transformation. It only perpetuates pain. Instead, listen to the voice of your good self. What does it say about your worth and your potential? How does it feel to imagine yourself free from old baggage? As you practice forgiveness, you'll notice subtle shifts in your thoughts and behaviors. Opportunities for growth feel less daunting because you're no longer weighed down by shame. Relationships improve as your capacity for empathy and understanding expands, not just toward yourself, but toward others. Let forgiveness be the bridge between your good self and bad self. When you walk across it, healing follows. The battle within quiets, and you find yourself more whole, more peaceful, and more capable of living authentically. Chapter 15. Strengthening emotional resilience. Life offers no shortage of storms, times when circumstances feel overwhelming, emotions run high, and inner conflict rises to the surface. In these moments, emotional resilience becomes your greatest ally. It is the ability to weather difficult feelings, bounce back from setbacks, and keep moving forward despite uncertainty. Resilience isn't about never feeling pain or disappointment. It's about meeting those challenges with adaptive strength, rooted in understanding and acceptance of your inner world. The good self thrives on resilience, drawing power from self-belief and hope. The bad self often stirs up doubts, focusing on vulnerabilities and perceived failures. How can you build and sustain emotional resilience in the face of inner conflict? The first key is self-awareness. When you tune into your feelings, without blaming yourself for having them, you gain insight into the emotional currents that influence your behavior. Recognize that distress and turmoil, while uncomfortable, are not signs of weakness. They are invitations to grow. A foundational practice is mindfulness. By noticing your thoughts and emotions in the present moment, you create a space between stimulus and response. This space is where resilience is formed. When your good self observes pain with curiosity and compassion, the intensity of suffering often decreases. You are no longer caught up in the storm. You become the anchor. Another vital skill is self-regulation. Emotional resilience is strengthened by learning how to manage strong emotions without suppressing them. When anger, sadness, or fear floods in, pause and breathe deeply. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What does this emotion want me to know? By honoring your feelings, you validate both the good and bad selves, transforming judgment into understanding. Community matters, too. Resilience grows in connection. Share your struggles with trusted friends, mentors, or support groups. Hearing that others have faced similar battles can lift you up and remind you that you are not alone. There is wisdom to be found in collective experience, and comfort in knowing that inner conflict is a common part of being human. Try this visualization. Picture your good self as a sturdy tree, roots sunk deep into the earth. Even when winds blow and branches bend, the tree stands firm, drawing strength from its foundation. Your bad self might be the storm, fierce and noisy, but it cannot uproot the tree. Instead, each time the storm passes, the roots grow stronger. Resilience develops through practice by facing discomfort, learning from mistakes, and returning to self-compassion again and again. Take small risks. Celebrate every step forward. When setbacks occur, revisit your strengths and remind yourself of past victories. Over time, resilience becomes a natural posture, shaping how you approach both inner and outer challenges. In the battle between the good and bad selves, resilience is the shield that lets you move forward without losing hope. It transforms pain into patience and fear into faith. With each test, you grow more capable, and you come to trust that no matter what, you can keep going. Chapter 16: Integrating the Good Self into Daily Life. Empowering the good self isn't a once-a-year event. It's a daily choice, woven into the fabric of everyday actions, thoughts, and interactions. Integration means moving beyond fleeting moments of inspiration and making the values and strengths of your good self the foundation of your life. To begin, notice the small decisions you make each day. How do you respond to stress? Do you choose kindness when confronted with irritations, or do you fall back into old defensive patterns? Integration starts with awareness. By catching yourself in real time, you can pause, reflect, and choose to act from your good self, even in the face of habitual resistance. Rituals and routines offer powerful support for integration. Establishing regular practices such as morning reflection, gratitude journaling, mindful breathing, or setting daily intentions creates anchors for your good self. These habits build mental and emotional muscle, making it easier to access compassion, patience, and courage when you need them most. Think of yourself as the conductor of an orchestra, guiding the many instruments that form your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Sometimes discordant notes will emerge, the bad self raising doubts or pushing you off course. The conductor doesn't ignore these notes, but gently redirects attention, bringing the ensemble back to harmony. Set realistic, meaningful goals that inspire your good self, rather than feed perfectionism. Celebrate progress, however small, and treat setbacks as learning opportunities. Write down values that matter deeply to you and revisit them daily. Ask, what would my good self do in this situation? Let this question steer your choices, even when they are difficult. Belonging and acceptance play a key role. When you share your journey with others, inviting them to witness both your triumphs and struggles, the power of your good self grows. Integration flourishes in environments where honesty, vulnerability, and mutual respect are honored. Seek communities, online or in person, that nurture personal growth. Over time, you'll notice that your default responses shift, Compassion outweighs criticism. Hope outshines despair. Choices become expressions of your truest self, not reactions to old fears. This process is gradual and ongoing, marked by both leaps and tiny steps. Integration is not the absence of the bad self, but a loving partnership with it. By understanding your inner complexity, you become more prepared to meet life's challenges with grace. The journey of becoming your best self unfolds in small, everyday moments. A conversation where you choose empathy, an act of self-care when you're tired, a decision to forgive rather than lash out. Living from your good self requires ongoing intention and reflection, but the gift is immeasurable. A sense of peace, meaning, and purpose that infuses every aspect of your existence. Chapter 17, Decision-Making and the Battle Within. Decisions shape our lives from the mundane to the monumental. Every choice is an intersection between our good self and bad self, a moment where values, fears, and desires collide. Understanding this conflict empowers you to make decisions that align with your deepest intentions, rather than being hijacked by fleeting emotions or old wounds. How does inner conflict affect decision-making? Consider how hesitation, guilt, or indecision often signal a battle between opposing voices. The good self wants what is aligned with growth, well-being, and purpose. The bad self, however, may urge caution, avoidance, or the comfortable path, even when it's unfulfilling. Decision-making begins with clarity. Pause and ask, which voice is speaking right now? Naming the self in the moment, good, bad, or uncertain, uncovers hidden motivations. Are you resisting a risk because it truly threatens your well-being, or because the bad self is afraid of failure? Are you driven to say yes out of guilt, not genuine desire? Developing a personal decision-making framework helps. Write down your core values and priorities and refer to them when faced with choices. Remember, the good self is rooted in these values, while the bad self may be influenced by short-term emotions or external pressures. Balancing emotion and reason is vital. A healthy decision blends empathy for your feelings with rational analysis. Give both selves space to speak. What are your hopes? What are your fears? Imagine the outcome of each choice and check for alignment with what matters most. Journaling these reflections can clarify complex situations. It's important to accept and learn from mistakes. No decision is perfect, and even missteps are valuable teachers. Rather than blaming the bad self for a wrong outcome, use the experience as a chance to strengthen your good self's wisdom. Make adjustments, forgive yourself, and move on. Peer support can be transformative. Talk through tough decisions with trusted confidants. A fresh perspective can illuminate blind spots and provide encouragement. Hearing others' stories reminds you that everyone deals with inner conflict and self-doubt, especially when making choices that count. In practice, decision-making is about progress, not perfection. Every time you choose from the good self, however small, you reinforce its power to guide your life. When you stumble, let self-compassion and curiosity lead you back. Each decision builds a more unified self, integrating wisdom from both the light and the shadows. In the final analysis, the battle within becomes less about winning and more about learning. By understanding each self's motivations, you craft choices that serve your growth and fulfillment. Decision-making is the bridge between intention and reality, and by mastering it, you walk the path toward your most authentic life. Chapter 18, Relationships as Mirrors of Your Inner Self. Relationships offer profound opportunities for self-discovery and transformation. Every interaction, whether intimate or casual, reflects aspects of your inner world, offering clues to both your strengths and vulnerabilities. The battle between your good self and bad self is rarely isolated. It's often played out in connection with others. Consider moments of conflict in relationships. The good self desires harmony, respect, and honest communication, while the bad self may react with defensiveness, blame, or withdrawal. When triggered by others, old patterns bubble to the surface, revealing the wounds and fears that shape your reactions. To use relationships as mirrors, adopt a posture of curiosity. When you feel hurt, angry, or misunderstood, ask, "What is this situation teaching me about myself?" Notice the stories you tell about your worth, your capability, or your right to be loved. Often, the behaviors that frustrate you in others are reflections of unresolved conflicts within. Practice emotional honesty. Share your feelings openly and vulnerably without judgment. This invites deeper understanding and encourages mutual growth. When you risk showing your true self, good and bad, you foster a climate of authentic connection that can heal and transform. Boundaries are crucial. They help you honor your values and protect your well-being, even as you remain open to learning from others. The good self sets healthy boundaries, clear, loving, and firm. The bad self may struggle to assert needs, fearing rejection or conflict. By practicing boundary setting, you give both selves space to grow in safety. Conflict, though uncomfortable, is also fertile ground for growth. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid or fear, view it as an invitation to deepen trust and understanding. Approach disagreements with openness and empathy. Ask questions rather than making assumptions. Seek solutions that honor everyone's needs, including your own. Celebrate connection and support. Relationships thrive when both parties feel valued and respected. The good self is generous, compassionate, and willing to give. The bad self, when honored and respected, no longer needs to lash out for protection. Integration in relationships mirrors integration within. Let go of perfection. No one is immune to mistakes or misunderstandings. When challenges arise, practice forgiveness and repair. A sincere apology, a willingness to listen, or an act of empathy can mend ruptures and build stronger bonds. Remember, relationships are dynamic mirrors, reflecting, teaching, and sometimes triggering. Each encounter is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and to strengthen the good self's power to love, accept, and connect. In the end, the quality of your relationships reflects the harmony within. When your good and bad selves collaborate, not compete, you unlock deeper intimacy, greater growth, and the joy of truly being seen. Chapter 19. Living authentically. Aligning actions and values. Authenticity is the art of living in harmony with yourself, where actions reflect values and words echo the truth of your heart. It's the ultimate integration of your good self, embracing everything you are and acting from your deepest convictions. For many, authenticity is elusive. We fear judgment, desire approval, or become lost in expectations, both others and our own. The bad self may push you to hide, conform, or betray your values for safety. The good self, however, longs for honesty, courage, and integrity. Begin by clarifying your values. What matters most to you? Take time to identify the principles that guide your life. Write them down, explore where they came from, and examine how well your current actions align with them. Next, notice where authenticity falters. Are there places you perform rather than express your truth? Times when you say yes but mean no, or when you silence yourself to avoid conflict. These patterns are invitations for reflection and growth, not for shame. Living authentically isn't reckless honesty. It's thoughtful self-alignment. It requires self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and courage. Pause before responding in challenging situations. Ask, what would my most authentic self do here? Use this as a compass for decision-making. Practice vulnerability in safe spaces. Share your dreams, fears, and setbacks with people you trust. As you risk showing up fully, you encourage others to do the same. Authenticity fosters deeper connection and mutual respect. Take small steps to bridge the gap between intention and action. Change is gradual. Celebrate every move toward greater congruence. When your actions and values match, you feel peace, strength, and freedom. Setbacks are part of the journey. When you slip into an inauthentic posture, notice it kindly. Reconnect with your values and adjust course. Learn from the experience and extend compassion to yourself. Over time, authenticity becomes a way of being. You stand firm in your truth, navigating life's storms with confidence and clarity. The battle between good and bad self fades, not because you're perfect, but because you choose to be real, every day, in every way. Living authentically is a gift, to yourself and to the world. It transforms inner conflict into inner peace and brings the unique light of your good self to everything you do. Chapter 20. Mastery over the mind, harmony between good and bad self. The journey towards mastery over the mind begins with acknowledging the perpetual duality within us. Far from being antagonists, the good self and bad self are aspects of our psyche that constantly interact, sometimes cooperating, sometimes colliding. True harmony is not the absence of conflict, but the cultivation of awareness, self-compassion, and conscious choice. The existential landscape of the mind, our minds, function as intricate systems shaped by biology, personal experiences, cultural conditioning, and the narratives we internalize. At times, the good self rises, a force of altruism, patience, and creativity. At other moments, the bad self surfaces, giving voice to impatience, fear, or resentment. This ebb and flow is natural. Rather than reacting with shame or denial when the bad self emerges, consider it as an opportunity for introspection. Ask yourself, what need or wound is this part of me expressing? By engaging with your shadow without judgment, you invite growth. This is the first pillar of mastery, awareness, the power of observation. Cultivating internal harmony begins with observation. Mindfulness is the gentle art of paying attention to your thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. Imagine yourself as a curious scientist or a loving parent, observing your inner world with warmth. Journaling, meditation, and self-reflection are powerful tools that illuminate inner patterns. When you observe a moment of internal conflict, for example, the urge to lash out in anger versus the desire to respond with understanding, you witness the two selves in action. The process is not about immediately suppressing the bad self, but understanding its source. Perhaps it is a remnant of past hurt or a misguided attempt at self-protection. Integrating, not erasing. Mastery is about integration, not erasure. The bad self contains valuable lessons, boundaries, raw authenticity, and the courage to confront discomfort. The good self offers wisdom on kindness, patience, and purpose. True harmony emerges when these opposing forces work together, each illuminating the other. Practical steps toward integration include naming your inner voices. Personify your good and bad selves. When in conflict, ask them what they are trying to achieve. Finding common ground, seek solutions that honor both aspects. For instance, setting a healthy boundary might be both a compassionate and assertive act, forgiveness and compassion. Recognize that every part of you is trying its best. Offer yourself forgiveness when internal conflict arises. The role of choice, ultimately, mastery rests on the foundation of conscious choice. Every moment presents an opportunity to choose which self guides your decisions. Sometimes the good self leads. At other times, the bad self might point out neglected needs. The goal is not rigidity, but balance, choosing with awareness, guided by values. As you cultivate mastery over your mind, remember that harmony is a journey, not a destination. There will be setbacks, and that is part of the human experience. Celebrate progress, hold yourself gently, and trust in your capacity to navigate the inner battlefield with wisdom and grace. In this chapter, you have glimpsed the possibility of deep self-acceptance. The path ahead leads to resilience, authenticity, and profound transformation. Harmony between the good self and bad self is not only achievable, it is the key to living fully and freely. If you found this video helpful, inspiring, or entertaining, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on future content. Your support means the world. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.